Hello, my name is Guy Carafone. Since I retired from corporate life a few years ago, I have written 4 books, 2 on business and 2 on running. My first running book is titled Boston Marathon Bandits, and my latest book is titled 3 Loops Around the Equator. The reason for the latest book title, at the end of 2019, I completed running the equivalent of 3 loops around the equator, 75,000 lifetime miles. Incidentally, although there is a significant amount of similarity between my 2 running books, my latest book focuses more so on my 40 years running experiences, whereas my first running book focuses more so on the Boston Marathon Bandits. Just as I have done for my other 3 books, I have created this chapter by chapter YouTube overview for my latest book, which provides would-be readers a snapshot of the book content. The principal reason I wrote this book is to inspire existing runners to continue running and provide would-be runners compelling reasons to embrace running and make it a part of their everyday fitness regimen. In addition to sharing my 40-plus years running experiences, this book includes numerous insightful tips about training, as well as how to avoid and nurture common running injuries. I hope you find the information in the book helpful, improving your own running performance and maintaining long-term running health. There are 2 parts to this book. Part 1, including chapters 1 through 7, is about my running experiences. Part 2, including chapters 8 through 11, is about the Boston Marathon. Now, let's get started with the chapter-by-chapter overview. Chapter 1, How I Got Hooked on Distance Running. I have been running essentially my entire adult life. I advanced from casual to distance running in 1978 when I moved next door to an athletic couple, Bill and Donna, which soon led to my first marathon in 1979. Since that time, I have clocked over 75,000 miles, completed 15 marathons, of which 12 were Boston, and ran countless other road races. I ran my first 6 Boston marathons between 1980 through 1985. After a regrettable 1985 run, I swore I would never run another marathon. Be that as it may, a co-worker influenced my decision to run Boston again, which lasted another 6 years, from 1992 through 1997. Along the way, I learned many valuable lessons about how to effectively prepare and run a marathon, what to wear, what to drink or not, and so much more. Chapter 2, Why I have continued running 40-plus years. The principal reason I continue running is the physical and mental benefits. By the way, to many, serious distance runners appear to be too skinny and undernourished. Don't let those fool you. Distance runners are among the healthiest people on earth. From a mental health perspective, running is one of the best ways to neutralize stress. Neutralizing stress benefits the runner as well as everyone around them who might otherwise be subjected to a raft of bad stress management practices. In addition to the physical and mental benefits, I like running for the following principal reasons. The flexibility to head out the door anytime I please. The ability to breathe fresh, clean air while I exercise. The ability to experience the great outdoors during the 4 seasons. The ability to choose from a limitless variety of routes. Furthermore, running is an extremely efficient way to burn calories. And finally, running is a very economical, low-cost exercise. Chapter 3, Running results in effortless weight control. One of the indisputable benefits of distance running is weight control. Look at any world-class distance runner and you will see someone that possesses virtually no body fat. Furthermore, distance runners typically possess exceptionally well-developed heart muscle, superb cardiovascular system, and extraordinary lung capacity. Weight control essentially comes down to calories input versus output, or calories burned. At a burn rate of roughly 150 calories per mile, it's not hard to see why distance runners are typically healthy and slim. Chapter 4, My Training with Comrades and in Solitude. I like both the camaraderie of running with others and solitude of running alone. During my first 20 years of distance running, I rarely ran alone. Most of my training was done with the following people: Tom, my longtime running friend, with whom I consistently trained at a relatively easy 8-minute pace. I also ran most of my marathons with Tom. Jim and Warren, with whom I consistently trained at roughly a 7-minute pace, and I also did a wide variety of speed workouts with Jim and Warren. And finally, a group of runners I dubbed the Rabbits, who were notorious for throwing in multiple 6.5-minute per mile surges into our weekly 10-mile runs. During the past 20 years, I have essentially been running alone, which admittedly gets a little lonely at times. Chapter 5: Avoiding and Nurturing Running Injuries. As with most long-time runners, I have dealt with my fair share of running injuries. I would say most injuries are due to the following: racing, intensive training, poor quality or worn-out running shoes, and lack of stretching before and after running. Shoes are the most important investment you will make toward running. Some running injuries are brought on by a person's anatomical structure or running form. For example, excessive pronation or supination. More on this in Chapter 6. Although distance runners may potentially deal with all sorts of injuries up and down their leg and feet, the most common injuries are runner's knee and hamstring tear. Avoiding recurring injuries requires taking the appropriate time off after an injury occurs, as well as frequent replacement of running shoes and stretching. Incidentally, the notion of running through injuries is an illusionary misconception. Chapter 6: Orthotics, a lifesaver for countless runners. Perfect foot planting and rotation while running is more so the exception than the rule. Most distance runners land on their heel and roll inward or outward on their forefoot, which is commonly referred to as natural pronation or supination. Many runners overpronate or oversupinate, which eventually leads to runner's knee injury. The remedy for pronating or supinating is orthotics. I started wearing orthotics after my third marathon and have worn them since. I used soft orthotics in the 1980s and 90s and upgraded to hard orthotics at the turn of the century, which have been much more effective and a long-lasting solution. Bottom line, orthotics are truly a lifesaver for me and for countless other runners. Noteworthy, my running career would have long been over otherwise. Chapter 7: Running outdoors can sometimes be annoying. Most runners will agree that running in temperatures higher than 85 degrees, accompanied by 60% or higher humidity, is uncomfortable and exhausting. With heat and humidity come annoying flying critters like mosquitoes, black flies, horseflies, and those very annoying little gnats. Loud motor vehicles are also annoying, in particular trucks and motorcycles. Group of motorcyclists are the worst. The larger the group, the louder and more annoying the noise. Lastly, loose running dogs represent a danger to runners, bicyclists, and others using the road. However, invisible dog fences have recently improved this situation. Chapter 8: Boston Marathon History. The Boston Marathon, which began in 1897, is the world's oldest marathon and unquestionably one of the most prestigious. The number of runners has grown from 18 in 1897 to over 30,000 in recent years. The 100th running in 1996 holds the old-time record with 39,000 registered participants, plus a few thousand non-registered runners or bandits. By 1969, the event had grown to 1,342 participants, resulting in the BAA, or the Boston Athletic Association, who sponsors the marathon, to institute qualifying times in 1970. Since qualifying times were so stringent, so-called bandits started coming onto the scene in 1970. Bandits were more or less tolerated by the BAA until 2013, the year of the Boston Marathon bombing, and prohibited thereafter. Incidentally, to address the growing popularity, in 2006 the BAA instituted staggered starting times, which has done wonders to accommodate the ever-growing number of participants. Chapter 9, Race Course and Spectators. In this chapter I describe the mile-by-mile race course. What makes Boston such a challenging course is the hilly second half. There are 4 major hills on the course, with the first starting just after mile 16, where runners encounter a 1/2 mile steady rise that goes over Route 128. The 3 infamous Commonwealth Ave hills start at mile 17 and end at mile 21, the top of Heartbreak Hill. Some runners never recover from the beating they experience on those 3 sequential hills. After Heartbreak Hill, which is followed by a steep downhill, the course becomes relatively flat. And finally, runners encounter a seamlessly endless last half mile, including a gradual rise on Hereford Street, followed by a long 3.5 block stretch on Boylston Street. Along the entire course are countless supportive spectators, which in recent years has been estimated to be over 1 million. Chapter 10, Running Boston. I ran 12 Boston marathons between 1980 and 1997. 11 as a bandit and 1 as a registered runner. The 1996 100th running was the most memorable because of the extraordinary number of runners and spectators on the course. The 1985 marathon was my most challenging, in which I missed my ride home. In this chapter, I talk about marathon preparedness, do's and don'ts, including clothing items that should or should not be worn. During some of my more memorable Bostons, I had the privilege to run next to the famous Johnny Kelly and Team Hoyt, Dick Hoyt and his son Rick. I also saw some dignitaries running the course, including former Boston Mayor Ray Flynn and Police Commissioner Mickey Roach. And of course, Boston wouldn't be Boston without the many dressed up superheroes and other characters that come back year after year. Chapter 11, Why so many people are fascinated with Boston. Much history has been made over the past 123 Boston marathons. The number of participants has grown from 18 runners in 1897 to over 30,000 in 2019. The number of spectators on the race course has reportedly grown to over 1 million in recent years. There have been several unforgettable Boston Marathon finishes, including Johnny Kelly and Tarzan Brown 1936 duel, and Alberto Salazar and Dick Beardsley 1982 duel in the sun, as well as many more. There was a year, 1980, Rosie Ruiz stole the race from Jacqueline Garreau. What a spectacle that was. And there was the unforgettable 2013 bombing at the finish line, which killed 3 people and injured 264 others. Justice was served on the 2 responsible brothers. Nevertheless, for many, running Boston represents the thrill of a lifetime. And finally, who could forget the greats that have run Boston over the years, including Bill Rogers, Toshihiko Seiko, Alberto Salazar, Robert DiCostello, Ingram Hussein, and many other world-class males. Also, the female greats, including Joan Benoit, Rosa Moda, Ingrid Christensen, Uta Piggott, Fatima Roba, Catherine Naroba, and many other world-class females. And finally, I'd like to say, this book is available on Amazon.com in both ebook and paperback format. For more information about all of my books, check out my website, beantownpublishing.com. Thank you for your time.